finally everybody's gone. And it's just me and Jay
Yep.
and Craig.
And Craig. Yep. He's
He's
still here.
He's just staring at us. Not even taking notes anymore. He says he's got it all up in his brain. Like those waitresses that you get at Chili's who mess up your entire order.
Maybe at Chili's. I don't know. I went to this restaurant not too long ago called Top of the River, and I'm sure you've never heard of it. It's kind of a local place, but seafood. That lady was real good. Like really, really, really good. She took the orders of like 20 something people without writing anything down, and nobody's order was messed up.
Well, last time I went to Chili's, I ordered the trio, the meat trio, fajita with no beans, extra rice, and I got chicken fajita
With extra beans and
no rice. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, anyways, I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher. This is Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay, and we're here to talk about D&D
or tabletop games, at least.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both.
Mostly about D&D tonight, I think.
Yeah, the past couple weeks though, we've been going over D&D 2024, and we're pretty much done with that. We had the review. We had our good friend Christian on, who basically read everything to us, and we reacted to it as best as we could. Not be surprised, we weren't whelmed. Least to say, overwhelmed. It's not bad. I come to think of it this way: like 5th edition is so good, everyone makes like their own variants of 5th edition. And it's so good that WotC made their own variant of 5th edition. And that's what it feels like. It feels like homebrew rules that they themselves have been using, some neat ideas to kind of spice things up. And at the end of the day, that's their new system. And if this was any other publisher other than WotC, no one would give this a second look. Because even good publications like Level Up Advanced 5e, even though it has a ton of good support from a lot of good people, it's still not as mainstream as even Cobalt Press's Valorant or Tales from the Valiant and MCDM's version or even Pathfinder. Like it just exists, and it's annoying. And because it's the name brand, it's the flagship tabletop RPG, like we have to bend to its beck and call, essentially. And I don't know if people are going to do that this time. If people do, great. If people flock to it and they like it, I'm all for it. I'm going to give it a good shot, you know. I tried giving Level Up Advanced 5e a good shot, and honestly, never used an ounce of it. Because it didn't change my game in a way that was clean enough and quick enough. But there are some changes in 2024 that are clean and quick. So maybe some of those things will come through. Maybe they won't. The only thing I can think of would be the surprise condition, and how they're handling the surprise. Because that was kind of confusing to newer players. But not really. I never found it very confusing from my standpoint. So,
oh my God, you there's so much here. Where to start? Because you've been rambling for like 3 minutes straight.
I wasn't done. You interrupted me.
I know. I have to. I'm ADD. My brain's not going to remember where to start from.
Who are you?
We already covered that. We're past that point.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good grief. Yeah, now see, I forgot what we're even talking about.
Aha, I succeeded.
Yep, it worked. So you're not completely wrong. Talking about the Level Up 5e thing, I would have used it exclusively even over 5th edition, even though they're more or less the same thing, except I never was able to get physical copies of the book. I could have bought them at some point, but it would have come from an overseas company since I missed the Kickstarter. Would have been expensive to get all of the necessary books. So I ended up just not ever really using it. I think it's a much better game than 5e is, like pure 5e. But yeah, like you're talking about, it sort of fell by the wayside. As for the surprise changes to 5.5, I don't even remember what they were, but I know that they were so bad I refused to use them.
So so when it comes to like it changes to the game that will matter, when you have a convoluted mechanic like surprise is in D&D 2014, which is currently the way I understand surprise to happen is that there's a stealth check that happens versus people's passive, and if they fail, a surprise round occurs. In a surprise round, the people who are surprised and have the surprise condition, which really isn't a condition per se, it's just a like status. They can't do anything until their turn comes up in initiative. And by can't do anything means they don't get a turn. They can't even use reactions until after their turn is passed. Now, we've been playing Solasta, which is pretty much 5e rules, and we've had some surprise rounds where we surprised some other people. And it works perfectly fine. It's broken because you get a full round of actions, and in a game that's so hard up on action economy, you just win. You win the game. And that's the problem in 5e 2014. You get a surprise round, you win. In 2024, the surprise condition is now you get a condition that says you're surprised, and it basically means that you roll at disadvantage on initiative. Which
that
sounds
that's right. That's not that bad.
It's not that bad, and it sounds okay at paper. The problem that it most likely will induce is a problem that I have with D&D is that I tend to find that players always go first, and then the monsters go. Okay? Because players have built them to have high initiative. That's just what players do. So monsters going basically just off their decks don't really have initiative bonuses built in, except for a few very fringe monsters. Rolling at advantage is going to basically flip that. Monsters are going to go first, and players are going to go second most of the time. So you still end up in the same kind of scenario where the monsters still go first, but instead of going first and then possibly going again before players react, they're pretty much just going to go first, and then players are going to go. It still puts them in this little weird block. You're like, all the monsters go, then all the players go, then all the monsters go, then all the players go.
I don't know what game you're playing. I've never had either of those issues.
It happens to me all the effing time.
Secondly, I also started with D&D Basic and Second Edition, where literally it's players go, then monsters go, or vice versa. It's whoever won. Like one side makes an initiative roll, not each player. So that's fine.
And so, like, if that's what they wanted, if they wanted just the players to go, then monsters to go, then just have it be that way. This whole rolling initiative thing really just it just slows things down, especially when the tables get bigger. I've had 12 players, 9 players, 9 players, 12 players in Adventures League.
Oh my god!
The past couple weeks. And literally, if I just go player, monster, 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 and just loop around like that, it goes so much faster than having to get initiative, write it all down, make sure someone's paying attention, people know when they're about to go. And initiatives is one of those things that like happens in every game in some way, shape, or form. And it should be the easiest thing to kind of go. Like, just have the players go, then the monsters. If you really want something super simple. If you want something a little bit more realistic, do the whole everybody rolls initiative at the top of the round and then they go. It works really well when you have an auto-rolling initiative system that you can do with D&D 5e, especially with D&D Beyond or any kind of online tool.
Well, if anybody's ever going to use D&D Beyond again.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
I want improvements to the game that I play and invest my time in. I don't know if this new edition is going to be the improvements that I want. Not like the specific improvements are what I want improved. I just want things to be better. And I don't know if it's getting that way.
I was not looking for improvements for 5e because 5e is owned by Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro. I knew the improvements, if any, would be limited. because they are beholden to the corporate master, as it were. Uh, if you want improvements on something, it's going to have to come from a smaller company.
So that kind of leads me to like what I really wanted to kick in on tonight. So we exist in a current, a lot of people call it a golden age of tabletop role playing games.
Oh, it is.
Our friend Dan just posted a post to us about like, hey, do you want different forms of D&D? We got that. You want to play something cool and kind of like a tweaked 5e. We have D&D 2024. You want to play an actual 5.5? You have Tales of the Valiant. You want to play 6th edition? We got the D20 core rules. You want to play 4.5 edition? We got MCDM RPG coming out soon. And then we have all the variants. Like we got like the old school 5e version with whatever it's called.
What are you talking about? Shadow Dark?
Shadow Dark, yeah.
Yeah.
We got the slow crawls like Dungeon Crawl Classic, We got other variants like Renegade 5e and isn't
there are so many role-playing games out there that if Dungeons and Dragons completely disappeared off the map, if 5th edition or 5.5 was the very last version, Hasbro goes bankrupt, they don't sell off, Dungeons and Dragons, and it completely disappears and a new edition is never made, I would not care, because I have access to more role-playing games than I am ever going to find time to play in my entire life.
Right. And I think that's kind of the issue. I don't see this as a golden age of tabletop role-playing games. As the eternal pessimist that I am, I think there's too much glut. I think that there's too many systems out there that's going to split the player base up too much. Now the player base, this happened before, I believe around the 3rd edition era, where like there were tons and tons and tons of game systems, and it wasn't until D&D kind of like went, no, we're going to be the big boys in the field, and basically I think came out with 3.5 and brought everybody into the fold, created Satanic Panic, et cetera.
Yeah, you're off by a good decade or more. You're talking about 2nd edition, but
whichever, whenever it happens. When there was a ton of role-playing games out there, they made the mistake and it became the central gaming system for decades. And now that the player base is as popular as it is and as big as it is, it can support a lot of different systems. You can really go out there and find this system that you like. The problem is first you got to find the system that you like, that you want to play as a DM. Then you got to find players that want to play that system. And you're going to find a lot of players aren't going to play anything that's not just the most popular system, which is going to be Dungeons and Dragons. Not until they get really addicted into the hobby, and then they can kind of pick a little variant that they want. Sometimes you could find an IP you really like Transformers, and like go, okay, we'll play that. And that's basically the Renegade.
I want to be Optimus system. Prime.
So like, it just, I feel like things are going to scatter for the next decade, and things are going to get really whittled down until essentially Dungeons and Dragons comes back around with a full new edition that kind of like revitalizes the industry. Right now, everyone is just making their own versions of 5e, and I don't like it. That's not fun. I don't care about what version of 5e you have. I want to play cool settings. I want to play awesome mechanics. I want to play awesome monsters. Give me more monster books, more source books. Let's all just play, the 5e version that we like. Stop making new fucking versions. And let's give it 10 years.
Okay, well, this is coming from somebody who's, first off, I've lived through the change from 2nd edition to 3rd edition to 4th edition to 5th edition, 5.5, etc. I've been through all of those editions. If this plays out the same way it has previously, people are going to whine, they're going to bitch, they're going to hate 5.5 or 2024, whatever they're calling the edition. And after a year, everyone's going to be playing just that edition. because people aren't going to make the shift immediately because they're in the middle of a campaign. There's a bunch of different reasons why you're not going to drop what you're currently doing to make all of these rules changes. We've already started talking about it with our own play group. We were talking about it this weekend because we're 3 or 4 sessions into Curse of Strahd, and we had to have that sit down and talk because 2024 comes out here in I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And we have to make that decision of, do we want to incorporate this stuff into our game? We haven't made that decision yet. I think the group is kind of leaning towards, no, let's just keep playing the 5e edition that we're running with. After that edition is over with, if we even continue D&D at all, then we'd probably just make the swap to 5.5. That is the exact same thing happened with 3rd edition. 3rd edition went to 3.5, and people didn't jump onto it immediately. Sure, they bought the books, but people didn't just stop their campaigns. They kept running with 3rd edition until it was at a point where they could make the swap easily. The other thing you have to look at is we are also in a more of a technological age than we were when that happened. So this is the first time you've had sort of an edition swap with everybody playing online like they are. I know the virtual tabletop's coming sometime probably next year, assuming WotC keeps at it. And that might completely upset the balance of everything. MCDM might be the coolest goddamn game ever. But if you have that virtual tabletop, that might make D&D way better. That's very much a let's wait and see how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be this massive split that you're talking about. You have a lot of people like me who are older who are looking to go towards the more rules light systems. The OSR, I'm really looking forward to Shadow Dark. I love Dungeon Crawl Classics. But other games like MCDM and Tales of the Valiant, like they are more core towards 5e players. So the people who are newer to tabletop might decide to run with those. But in general, I feel like D&D is still the flagship. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be heavily marketed. It's going to be the number one thing. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Probably never.
See, if I was in charge at WotC, and I'm guessing this had to have come up in some kind of conversation, I would have delayed the release of 2024 until the VTT was finished and create a set of rules that are different, much like it's our own version of 5e, but create one that really works for the VTT environment, because there is some things that just don't work. Build it into their big VTT online system. Have it, really, really just double down on the fact that this is our VTT. This is our version of Dungeons & Dragons in a VTT. Bring back like the shifting and the spaces, all the cool stuff from 4E that was miniature tabletop stuff that 5E didn't have. Bring all that really cool stuff back, the shifting and the battlefield adjustments that happen in the game, because
what do you mean by shifting? Because I'm not familiar with that term.
So there were a lot of characters there was a lot of push and pull mechanics in 4th edition. Okay, because it primarily was a tabletop miniature game, more so than the other editions. Classes like the Avenger were kind of built around crowd control through placement of minis. Okay,
I got
so like you could run up to somebody, hit them, and with your attack, teleport them and you 30 spaces away. So you could run up to a monster, stab it, pop it to the back where the rogue is.
Yep.
And then you and the rogue could assassinate. Like those really cool, really hard to kind of play in a, theater of the mind, or even, as someone who played 4E a lot, even on the table, it was very difficult. and bring those things into the game. The marking mechanics, the bleed mechanics, all those cool things that 4E had that was a pain in the ass to manage.
It'd probably still be a pain in the ass to manage, even in the
No,
virtual
no,
tabletop.
because it can happen automatically. Like the fighter, for instance, had an ability when they hit a target, they became marked. Okay. And then if you had a marked target and the marked target didn't attack you, they had disadvantage on those attacks. Then once you hit a marked target, you then had a higher chance to crit on that target depending on certain classes and certain builds that you had. Or you could get more temporary hit points. There was a lot to manage, and it's a lot to manage in a video game. It's just like that happens all behind the scenes. You
Yeah,
know,
but
you don't see that.
the virtual tabletop is not a video game.
It is. It
Mm.
100% is going to be.
So some things would be easy to manage within that. You know, the marking of a target, and if it attacks somebody else, it has disadvantage. That's easy
Yeah.
to automate. But movement, like physical movement of pieces, is still going to be done by somebody. So in the
Yeah.
case of the rogue, you know, attacking a target, you know, the rogue then has to maneuver himself around. There, not everything is going to be fully automated or
No,
done
no.
that.
Yeah. So it's just like Celeste, where we move our figures around. Okay. But instead of having animated figures, they're going to be like little Hero Forge figures, like they've
Yeah,
shown off in the video of it. Did you watch the video of Asterion, Symmetra, Brendan
no,
Lee Mulligan?
no, I
Dude,
never did.
it was fantastic. It really was. But they showed off like how the models worked and how they looked and how they basically be represented in game. So it's pretty much like they're just moving minis around a board.
Right.
And there's just a lot of extra flair that goes with that. So I would have delayed the game and basically made the D&D virtual tabletop version and gone with the stuff that makes kind of more video gamey, like 4th edition was kind of like breaching on, and bring in some of those really cool things that just don't work face to face. And I think they would have been more successful with that instead of coming out with just well, we got to sell more books, guys. So let's put out something no one really wants.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it feels like. Where I think that they could have pushed it back a year and really just doubled down on the virtual tabletop and made it something different, something that stands out above Roll20, above Foundry, above all the other VTT systems out there, and says, we are a unique VTT driven experience for your tabletop games, and cornered that market before it even knew it existed. And
I don't think that they're going to be able to do that because it's a little late for that now.
no, it's not.
Eh,
It really isn't.
I mean,
I mean,
there's a lot of VTTs out there, but the one they are releasing is above it. It's supposed to be above and beyond every other one that exists. Like it is going to be more like a video game in the regards of how things look.
yeah, but
Uh,
they're going to be running off of 2024, which just doesn't hit well.
we don't know if it
Maybe
hits well. Nobody's even played it yet.
plenty of people have played it already. It's not, no one's freaking out about how great it is, you know?
It's 5e with a smidgen of rules changes. Everybody knows how 5e works. 5e is great. It's simple. It's straightforward. You know, the most of the changes are in the character classes and the weapon masteries. The masteries are going to be the big thing, the big change to how combat flows in that game. Otherwise, it's just 5e.
The masteries do kind of hit me as something that is going to work well in the VTT and be really bad face to face. Like, oh, did I hit him with the short sword or the dagger? Oh shit, I forgot.
I mean,
Versus the very VTT, just knowing which one you hit with and giving
yeah.
the appropriate bonus.
If a player can't remember which weapon they hit somebody with, they got other issues.
All the goddamn time.
How do you not know? I mean, first off, most people don't dual wield. Secondly, if you do, was it your first attack or your second attack? First attack was the sword. Second attack wasn't.
Man, again, you have this amazing bubble of competent players.
I mean, I am playing with a brand new player, brand fucking new. She's played 3 games and she's having no issues with it. She's playing a fucking druid who spellcasts and having no problems.
Oh, you lucky son of a bitch! You found the only girl in Alabama that plays D&D.
Oh no, there's two of them in our play group. So
You found the only two. No, I play with a lot more newer players and players that just they don't have the temperament for the game, and it can be grating sometimes, but you try to work with them and make them better, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So a system like 4th edition, I would never play 4th edition with someone like that. I would only play 4th edition with someone who actually knew the rules and knew things well.
Fifth
And even
edition
then,
fifth edition is the first D&D system that's actually kind of good for newer players.
yeah, but we have there are difficulties, and
I said kind of good. It's still way more complicated than say Shadow Dark or a bazillion other
but
systems that are out there.
but to my point, they could have really made a VTT system that was meant for VTTs and really defined a whole new, almost like game genre.
That's their
And
goal. Like that's what they're trying to do, and I think
well,
we'll have to wait until it's actually out to see how that plays.
I don't think they're doing enough, because if 2024 is going to be the VTT D&D edition, I can guarantee you, and I will say this now and later, that they did not do enough. Because unless they come out with a supplement book that's called Xanathar's Guide to VTTs, and it has a bunch of VTT rules that only work in the VTT, then I'm going to ask Xanathar first, how'd you get a computer in the Forgotten Realms? Did Silgar buy this for you? How? He's a fish.
God damn it, Ed Greenwood.
Ed, why are there computers in the Forgotten Realms? No, I have to. I'm not have to. I make it sound like it's a chore. I get to do player handbook readings for the new players in September. I think it's on the 15th and the 22nd at Zenergy at my LGS. There's supposed to be this big, huge packet that we're supposed to get and everything. And
oh wait, so they're actually like WotC is actually sending out new
yes.
materials for what, Adventures League?
No.
Oh, okay. They're sending it out to distributors or people.
They're sending out to people who've already requested it. I don't know if the window's still open, but it's basically be learn to play session stuff, like goodies and trinkets and stuff for people to learn how to play D&D and learn how to play D&D 2024. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have to do my best not to be a grumpy little bitch. Which is going to be really hard, guys.
Now you can sell them a whole bunch of beginners box sets.
Oh, okay. So I think I'm done ranting about 2024, and I have to get into something about that.
Okay.
So I've been playing Eve of Ruin with my Adventures League group.
Which is a crazy fucking thing to do, by the way.
Well, I have a lot of fun with it. I've had to paint my own minis for the first time because I couldn't find, what are they, Balguras?
Yeah.
I couldn't find any minis for those. I actually painted 2 Balguras up and they got banished immediately. That made me sad.
Yeah, that's usually what happens, as we know from playing Celasta.
Yeah, it made me real sad. But it's been okay. It's really hard with 12 people to kind of scale things up. There was one point in time where I used control water to flood the dungeon, and basically half of them didn't have any kind of dark vision or anything, so they're all blind underwater, drowning.
Perfect.
While this one demon just ran around and just stabbed people with a trident. So let me get your thoughts on this. So the demon, I can't remember what it is, some kind of fish man, a Madrid.
Marid is
Marid.
It's not a demon though. That's an elemental.
Yeah, it's an elemental. Sorry, yeah. He cast control water, okay, and basically created 20 feet of water to fill the dungeon level that he was in, and just filled the entire place.
Okay, did he cast control water or create water?
Create water.
Okay.
Because one of the controls all in control water is creating water and creating 20 feet of water.
All right. He does something to make 20 feet of water. Good
Right.
enough.
Floods the entire dungeon. One of the players who is playing a Warforged cleric wants to dispel it. Okay. So
Too late?
I don't know.
No,
Because,
it's too late because once the water's there, it's not magical water. It's just water. You have to counterspell that shit.
see, I didn't know if it would be or would not be considered water because it only lasts for a minute and then it goes away. It seems pretty magical to me. Well, anyways, I did rule that he could cast the spell magic, but because it was a high level spell, he had to do the save for it, which he succeeded. So it wasn't like the spell magic poof gone.
All right.
So the spell magic got like a 27 or something on his save roll to dispel it, and he got rid of the water that way. And that was kind of my question, is whether or not he could actually do that or not, because it doesn't say that the water is magical, but like it kind of is. Like it creates 20
yeah.
feet of water and then it dissipates
I
immediately.
gotta look this spell up. I need it's another one, the exact wording of let's see. So it was create water that he cast.
No,
Uh
it was the 7th level variant. It was control
oh,
water.
okay. That's a different one.
Yeah, it's control water and flood.
Control water. Okay, so flood is what he cast.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
It says you cause the water level of a standing water in the area to rise by as much as 20 feet, and
Hang
the
on.
area includes the shore,
Oh,
the
okay,
flood of
okay, I
water
got it.
spills over to dry land. So basically, there's this giant pool of water in the dungeon,
Yeah.
and he casts control water flood on that.
Okay.
So it basically just blurp.
So there was already water in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If there's already water there and he's just manipulating it, making it move.
He's not making it move. He's making 20 feet appear. Like, so he's making another voluminous 20-foot, high volume of water from the water that already exists.
Okay. Flood. This is under the control water spell, which is 4th level. And there's multiple things you could do with it. One of which is flood.
Yeah.
You cause the water level of all standing water in the area to rise by as much as 20 feet. If the area includes a shore, the flooding water spills over onto dry land. If you choose an area in a large body of water, you instead create a 20-foot tall wave that travels from one side of the area to the other, crashes down. Any huge or smaller vehicles in the wave's path are carried with it to the other side. Any huge or smaller vehicles struck by the wave have a 25% chance of capsizing. The water level remains elevated until the spell ends, or you choose a different effect. If this effect produced a wave, the wave repeats on the start of your next turn while the flood effect lasts. Okay. So first off, there has to be some water in the area for that to work, because it does say you cause the water level of all standing water in the area to rise by as much as 20 feet. Now, that being said, it also does say the water level remains elevated until the spell ends, or you choose a different effect. So, by that wording, I would say dispel magic would end the flood.
Okay. So, and that's what I went with on the fly.
Yeah,
Didn't really know what the quote unquote right answer would have been.
yeah. With that wording, that's how I would rule it. I mean,
Yeah.
who the hell knows? Jeremy Crawford might say otherwise. I don't know.
Yeah. Because like it just creates 20 feet of water, and then we were in a dungeon, so just like there's the pool of water, haha, fuck you, but
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like that, it says you cause the water level of all standing water. You could literally just pour out an ounce of water and then cast flood and make 20 feet of water.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like you just pour water into a glass, take a sip, and like splash it on the ground.
Yeah,
Hey, look, standing water.
you could just spit on the ground and make that work by that reading. So
All right, good. I'm glad that I had some concurrence on my decision.
Yeah, you weren't far off.
The best part was too is like they were sent into this dungeon to rescue 4 people, and they had already found one of the people. And this dungeon is a kind of a small dungeon that's kind of like a dip in it in the center, you know, that goes from like one major area to the other because they kind of like dug down into another crypt from the crypt that they're in. So
Mhm.
essentially, I had the flood the crypt that they were in because it was all the same level, 10-foot high ceilings from north to south. Just the whole thing got flooded.
Okay.
So they found a guy, knocked him out, killed him by accident, resurrected him, knocked him out again, locked him in the cell that they just found him in, and we're like, okay, we'll bring him back later. We'll get him later. So then they fight this guy, then flood happens. And then they check on the guy real quick, and he's drowning to death because he just got stuck in a room full of water and he had water in his lungs. So they save him from drowning. The best part is, like, 2 rooms over was the other prisoner who got stuck in the water and drowned. And they never bothered to even open that door to check to see if they were there.
Oh well.
So I feel kind of sad for that guy that drowned and died. But they finished that dungeon and they rescued 2 people of the 4.
I just can't imagine running an Adventures League level game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because you mentioned it before, and I understand this. Most people who play Adventures League, the vast majority of them are newer players.
Well,
So,
the group
so
that I have now is split right down the middle. Like,
okay, so you're running 12 people, of which 6 are experienced and 6 are new or newish. Uh, you're running 12 people in Eve of Ruin,
yeah,
which starts at level 10.
I know. What I really need is I need one of them to step up and say, "Hey, I'll take the newbies aside, and I will play the game with them." You know,
That
but
would be ideal, yeah.
yeah,
That would be ideal. I know it's very hard to get, consistent dungeon masters who can run on a Wednesday night.
yeah,
I mean, that's always an issue.
yep. But you know, that's my challenge. I got to figure it out. But another thing that happened is that someone failed to save. Okay, and I told them that if they went out to the store and they bought a new set of dice and used code word grumpy for 10% off, that they could reroll the save. Am I
Okay.
overstepping the bounds as a DM if I
No.
make players buy new sets of dice to
Okay.
reroll saves?
You are not overstepping your bounds, but you have to make that offer to every player at your table.
Oh yeah, I told everyone that. Yeah,
And
every
just
single person, like, if you go buy a new set of dice, you can re-roll any roll you want.
yeah, that's not overstepping the bounds. It's your table. You can do that, but you have to be fair. It has to go for every player at your table, and I would probably only allow that once, or maybe once per game session.
No, I'll allow it as much as they have dice in the store because, like, if I can sell 100 sets of dice, me and the store owner are gonna be happy, fat fellows, you know.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
So it was more just like an off the cuff statement, but he considered it. He sat there and was like, "I really don't want to fail this save."
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
you really don't. But this is a level 10 adventure, and this is the first dungeon, so I don't want to make any, like, rash decisions on it. Um, there was a prelude that was level 3, and that was a really good prelude kind of just adventure. Like, if you, I can't remember what the name of it was. It was like, um, uh, the Eve of Vecna or some shit like that. It was the prelude to the Eve of Ruin.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a super fantastic small crypt. It's got a lot of interesting things in there. Like, the first encounter is with a water weird, which is really hard at level 3. I killed one player with it, almost killed a second. And that was fantastic. And then there's like this whole encounter with a crying ghost. Then there's a bunch of like zombies that are worshiping a corrupted statue of Ohm that has the hand of Vecna on it. There's just a lot of really cool, like, tiny encounters throughout the entire place that are really well thought out and kind of varied. Like, you had a water weird, and then you had zombies, then you
Right.
had cultists. You hit all the marks, and it was really fun. And then I'm going through this dungeon, and the first room is a bunch of whites, and then the water elemental, the water weird, the Marid, and then there's cultists and mages, the Balguras, cultists and mages, cultists and mages, cultists and mages. And I was just like, I'm tired of cultists and mages. Like the problem I had with the keys from the Golden Vault was everything was a freaking veteran. Like that's what they used to fill in everything was the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
This one seems to fill in everything with the cultists and mages.
We even have one of those in Strahd.
Yeah. So like every encounter was just the same. Okay, here's this cone of cold. Here's this cone of cold. Here's this cone of cold. Here's the fireball, fireball, fireball. Here's the fireball, fireball, fireball. I'm like, I could do all this and wipe the party now, or play like they're idiots and have them cast a cantrip. So I really tried my best to find that middle ground between I need this to be a hard encounter. They're all level 10, there's 12 of them. And I didn't up the monster count. So like, okay, I'm gonna pull out all the stops. The counter spells flying everywhere. You know.
Yeah.
It really was like a mage duel kind of thing. But it was just
if you up the monster count, because there's 12 players, you're now dealing with a hell of a lot more monsters, which makes combat take a hell of a lot longer. And 5e at 10th level can already take pretty damn long for combat.
yeah. The final encounter for the dungeon, there's like this cage over a ritual circle, and one of the victims that you're supposed to rescue is there. And there's a bunch of cultists on the far side of the room that are chanting and keeping the ritual running. Then there's a bunch of Nothics, and there's a mage as the big bad. This is after already having a bunch of Nothics, cultists, and mages 3 or 4 times. And it says that if any of the cultists die, or if the mage dies, the spell gets interrupted and they all get brought to the Shadowfell. So we start the encounter. There's a firebolt that goes off from the mage because he was waiting for them because they were using very loud spells, so he knew they were coming. So they open a door, a non-ally shows up, ready attack goes off, fireball, roll initiative. And then immediately they fireball back. They're more than 60 feet away, so they can't get counterspelled. The fireball goes off. She's a warlock, so she has it upcasted to like 6 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And 48 damage. The mage fails a save. He's dead. Encounter's over. It was so anticlimactic because of that. But like they were the rest of the dungeon would have TPK'd them. Like if I had really gone all out with the mages, I think I would have won. But like I'm not trying to win, of course, but just like it really when all you're throwing at the party is just a bunch of mages, they're only going to stay alive for as long as they have counter spells before attrition's going to get them.
But you're also talking about a game of what should be 4 players. Yeah, they like even all of these campaigns that they've written are designed for 4 players. So at 5 players, it doesn't alter it very much. Once you step it up to 6 players, you have to start making some adjustments. When you step it up to 12 players, you're literally at 3 times the recommended amount of players.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, is that if I would have gone with 5, which is what I'd like to do, they would have lost. There's no way they would have won. I don't see how they could have won. Maybe if they were, maybe there's a lot of maybes. Like maybe they didn't mess with like the pipes like the players did and warn everybody they were going in stealthy the entire way. Like I just don't see where the balance came in having 7 mages back to back to back makes it that they can survive. But then again, it's just a bunch of cultists, so that's really all you got is you had a bunch of cultists and a bunch of mages. There's a couple demons here and there, which kind of don't make sense for Vecna.
I mean, Eve of Ruin is supposed to be a difficult campaign. It's supposed to be. Yeah. Like I don't know the specific encounter other than what you've explained to me.
The encounter in question is supposed to be 1 mage and 5 cultists.
All right. Well,
Okay.
that doesn't like what
Hold
are
on.
I'm assuming they have the stats in the back of some book somewhere.
Yes, monster manual.
Okay.
And if you mess with some pipes, mages in another room become alerted to the fact that there are players, and they join the mage and the 5 cultists. So the encounter is essentially 3 mages and 5 cultists who know that you're coming. All right.
Right.
Especially if you hit the bells wrong in the previous room, they know someone, not a friend, is coming. So they're ready to go. So 5 ready cultist attacks if I wanted them, and 3 ready mage attacks if I wanted them.
Okay, so here's your issue with that. You can't ready a spell without expending that spell.
It's a surprise round.
Who's surprised? Everybody knows that they're on. Like everybody knows that everybody's. You know, when I would imagine when your players kick in the door, they know the bad guys are on the other side, and the bad guys know the players are on that side. So there is no surprise round at all.
Okay.
That surprise round does not exist. It's everybody going on the same round of initiatives.
Well,
So
I just had one ready fireball trigger. That was
yeah,
it.
and that's the thing. And if they don't know specifically that those players are just about to kick that door in, they can't ready an action ahead of time with a spell at least because it burns that spell slot.
They could in this case because there's these bells in their previous room that they have to hit. Like, they don't have to hit; they hit anyways. All right. So if they didn't hit the bells or interact with the bells at all, they knew no one's coming. Otherwise, they know someone's coming.
All right.
You know, first off, it's like, oh shit, the pipes are leaking again. 2 more monsters enter the combat pool, and then it's like, okay, shit, I don't know what's going on. Oh shit, there's some adventurers, and instead it was, hey, that's weird. The pipes are leaking. Ding, 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 ding,
Okay.
ding.
So
Oh
anyway,
shit.
okay,
Okay.
I got it. So that room is 1 mage and 5 cultists.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Well,
because they
I'm
leaked
looking
the
at.
pipes, it's 3 mages and 5 cultists.
Okay, so it's 3 potential fireballs,
On a
uh,
cult.
or cone of coals. However, yeah, I mean that's going to hurt. But,
Mm-hmm.
they're also Cone of Cold is their top slot. They're risking if the players decide not to immediately kick that door in after those bells, you've got 6 seconds for those players to kick that door in before you've lost your spell slot.
Yeah.
So, I don't foresee, those NPC mages wasting their 1 5th level slot in hopes of that. Maybe a fireball, maybe.
That's why I had 1 fireball go off. You
Yeah.
know, not 3 and a bunch of daggers,
Yep.
But I could have had 5 daggers get thrown.
Yeah.
Um,
With a group of 4 players, that's going to be a tough fight if there's 3 mages. The cultists are non-issues almost completely. Yeah, they go down in basically 1
yeah.
hit. But 3,
The spirit guardians that I didn't counterspell took them out.
yeah, there you go. And it's one of those things too of how far away are the mages because counterspell does have a range of 60 feet, I think. So
No one in the door that they kicked in that could see the mages had counterspell.
no, well, no, I mean more so of them casting spirit guardians.
Yeah, that they could have counterspelled that. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
It just
Uh,
slipped my mind.
yeah, tough fight, but at 10th level, that's a winnable fight.
And then the Balguras later,
Yeah.
which really I expected more out of them. I mean, yeah, they got banished, but they
That's
punch
usually,
things.
that's
They
usually
punch
what
things
happens.
and they turn invisible. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, at that level, at 10th level, see invisibility is a spell.
Yeah, but it's just invisibility. It only lasts for 1 action. If it was greater invisibility, oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Balgura stats is from 3rd or 2nd or 1st, but I'm pretty sure it was much more potent than the 5th edition.
I don't think so. Let me see. I got to remember what they are for 5th edition, even. Challenge rating 5. Yeah, okay. Does a little bit of damage. 2d6 plus 4 from a bite, d10 plus 4. That doesn't seem that big of a deal. Let's
Mm-mm.
let's look up 3.5. Let's see. Challenge rating. Things are laid out a little differently in this edition. 45 hit points, damage resistance, cold iron or good, AC of 22, which is roughly an AC 17 maybe by 5th edition standards.
Mhm.
Challenge rating would be it says 7 to 12 hit dice, so it's roughly a 6 to 7th CR, 6 or 7. So yeah, not that big of a deal.
No, I expected more.
Now, well, the big difference between 3rd edition to 5th edition is that they could summon other demons.
Yeah,
So
they don't have that.
yeah, because all demons and devils had that ability. You know, like, there's a percentage chance that one time a day they can just summon up another demon or devil into the battle.
I summoned Balgura. I summoned a Balgura. Infinite Balguras.
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, that's a thing.
That would have been great.
Yeah,
More
especially
monkeys.
yeah. Usually there's a limitation, not on necessarily how many could be summoned, but Balguras can only summon like more Balguras. Like a pit fiend can't summon another pit fiend. It's usually like a Marilith or something a little smaller.
I mean, why would he?
Well,
He's
yeah,
the pit
exactly.
fiend.
Right, exactly. You can't have somebody else coming in there, taking his action.
You took my job.
Yep, the took her gerbs.
All right.
Uh,
So let's get into the D&D Beyond
yeah, and
news.
I'm gonna let you lead a lot on this because I didn't even really read into it. I just read a lot of people bitching about something I didn't know shit about.
So part of kind of like bouncing off the conversation I mentioned earlier about like they really could have released a D&D Beyond that was for VTT. At the very least, released a new edition when the VTT came out, because what has happened now is that they being Hasbro, WotC, basically said that, hey, when D&D 2024 comes out, we are retiring all the old monsters, items, and spells that are being updated in 2024. Okay, so some things really didn't get updated. Fireball is still Fireball.
Mhm.
All right, Counterspell, however, is completely different.
Yeah,
Okay, for better or worse, it's completely different. Things like net, the net item is no longer a magic item in D&D 2024.
right.
And you,
Which
as you guys said last night, what the fuck is a net?
yeah, nobody's ever used it in 5e.
I literally used it this last Saturday in my D&D game.
All right, so it's been used one time in 10 years. Got it.
Well, and by net, it's you think of the gladiators with the trident and a net. That's what it is.
Well, gladiator's not a class, therefore nobody uses net.
Anyways, the net was like one of the magic items going away, and I looked at that and I went, no one uses net. That's not a big deal. No one really complained that net was going away. Let's just be fair.
Yeah, nobody cares.
It's just the fact that other magic items that were 2014 exclusive, which weren't many, but there's a lot, were being updated to the new 2024 edition. Basically, they were adding all the weapon effects, weapon masteries to them.
Right.
Spells were the big thing where they're like, hey, if you want to continue using the old counterspell, you have to make a homebrew rule and use the old counterspell. All player sheets are being updated 2024. No exceptions. Have a good day. So people got really upset by that. And people like my wife got upset by that. They're like, I don't want to have a new character sheet. I don't want to use 2024 stuff. I just want to continue using what I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe later. Okay.
Right, which goes in line with what I was saying.
Right.
People might make those changes after their campaigns wrap up down the line.
I have an issue where the monsters are the big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because on our stream I showed this off, and I'll bring it up again here. Things like the direwolf have changed drastically. Their hit points are very different. Their damages are very different. And they lost what I feel is a lot of core flavoring that they need. Like the 2024 Direwolf does not have um, advantage on perception checks that require the sense of hearing or smell.
Right.
Okay. Yes, it is a useless thing in the stat block, but that's what it gives flavor. This is a wolf. This
Well, they
thing
don't.
can smell you and
Okay.
hear you
We've
better than
talked.
anything else.
We've talked about the bard changes. We've talked
Right.
about the ranger changes. They don't like flavor. Flavor sucks. They want bland. This has to be. It has to be British cooking. You
Yeah.
can't have actual flavor in it.
I don't like how they have the new stat block set up. They're from a tech writer perspective, which is my expertise IRL. There's a lot of empty space. There's a lot of cluttering. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's bad. It's just not my cup of tea. I would rather there were other changes I would make to it first. There's some things that they did change I do like armor class is now just AC, hit points just HP. We all know that now. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for making that change 30 years too late.
I mean, the older stat blocks. We've talked about the second ed stat blocks on here were great.
So
very straightforward, very simple.
So when it comes down to this, we're forcing the change through. There's nothing you can do about it. Enjoy the new stuff. They said, I'm not going to handle what they said. We'll handle what they said later. People get in an uproar that they're being forced to go into changes and lose things that they have already paid for. Like most people, are upset. People do not realize still to this day that you are not buying the rule book of the player's handbook for 2024. You are renting it from them for as long as you maintain that subscription.
Yep. Physical.
And they're allowed to change it at any time. Now, we are accustomed as a society, culture, to basically, even though that it is something that's there, that we're accustomed to it always staying there and being there in the way that it's presented, with a few minor changes, whether it be cultural or sensitivity or something along those lines. The Hadozi come to mind recently. Roll20 then says, hey, we're going to keep both because we have a different licensing structure than D&D Beyond. And when you create a character for D&D, you could choose 2014 or 2024, and those are the rule sets that are applied. That's what people were expecting with D&D Beyond.
Yep. I did see a lot of comments in certain groups that we're a part of specifically saying, well, looks like I'm staying with Roll20 or looks like I'm moving to Roll20.
Yeah. And that's kind of what D&D Beyond came back and said. They're like, okay, hold on. We don't want you to go. So we will revert our decision on basically forcing everyone to update with a few exceptions to the 2024 spreadsheet and using the 2024 magic items, the 2024 spells, and the 2024 monsters. They're now going to flag all the old monsters as legacy, which I can understand why they didn't want to do that, because you're going to get a lot of fluffy, there's going to be 4 different versions of Dreadwolf in the future. Okay, that's a problem I'm handling. I'm handling right now at my job is duplicate entries in a database. It's pissing me off. So if I look at MCDM Direwolf, and then I have Cobalt Press's Direwolf, then I had the Legacy Direwolf, which is 2014, and then I have the new Direwolf, which is 2024. I hate that there's 4 there, but at least I know all 4 are different. And at least I can go through and pick the one I like. So really that annoyance is something that I can get by because I know that I can pick the flavor of Direwolf that I want.
Yeah.
Do I want really hard? MCDM. Do I want middle-ish ground? Cobalt Press. Do I want basic? 2014. Do I want easy mode? 2024. So at least I know that. The things that are changing now is there's a couple changes that are happening, verbiage changes. Races are turning into species. Inspirations changed to heroic inspiration, and cast spells being changed to magic. And these are terms that are updating, which is fine. No one's going to care. If they do care, they're being an idiot. So at the end of the day, D&D Beyond's got this big, huge spaghetti code back end, and they got to change things very carefully. So I understand the verbiage changes without having to double up everything.
I think some people are going to give a shit about those little changes, but not so much that, nobody's going to care so much that they would cancel their fucking subscription over it.
No, and I don't want them putting a legacy racist page and a current species page. Just change the species. You should have called it ancestries and move on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why they have heroic inspiration. Like that's
I don't know.
it's just inspiration, guys. Just call it inspiration.
Yeah, it's hero points. It's action dice. There's so many damn names for the same thing. I think I think Shadow Dark just calls it inspiration. No, they call it something else. Even I don't even remember.
The best part is that we normally record this podcast on Sunday. I wasn't feeling up for it yesterday. So we're recording this on Monday, and it's like our catch-all day. And the best part is that we would have recorded this session, and then when we finished, it was when they posted this update. Like late Sunday night is when they posted this update that they're taking everything back and they're gonna do it correctly. I was watching Sly Flourish today, and he did a whole video about all the changes and how good and bad and ugly everything was. And then he had to basically pop in a different world, a different like setting and different shirt going, hold on. After I was recording and editing the video, they said this and released this. So I was kind of glad that we didn't record until the following day.
Yeah, normally I'd rather record on Sundays, but in this case it worked out in our favor.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're going to call this episode the D&D 2044 recap and why Chris keeps drowning everyone in Adventures League. I don't know, but like I think at the end of the day, I'm still psyched about playing D&D. I'm still psyched about playing that 5th edition 2014. I want to try Shadow Dark. I don't care about anything else. Cool or otherwise, I don't want to learn anything else.
And we will probably talk about Shadow Dark. I'm guessing next week. I ordered literally everything I could. Now that it's back in stock, I've got the PDFs. I've looked over it a million times.
Well, I'm going on vacation next weekend.
Oh, okay.
So I will have time to read Shadow Dark, and I will have opinions. Because I really want to try Shadow Dark. I want to take some time and just read it. I should have ordered the book a while ago. That way I could have it. But
yeah, well, you got the PDF.
I got the PDF, so I'm interested in trying it out and giving it a good shot. I really am excited for it. I really kind of want my basic tabletop, and I want a gritty version. Like I want the normal one and the advanced one.
Yeah.
Again, D&D, man, you dropped the ball with 2024. It could have been so much more.
It's one of those things. I like both games. Sometimes you want to play a superhero, and that's when you want to play D&D. And sometimes you want to struggle and pray you don't die, and that's when you want to play games like Dungeon Crawl Classic or Shadow Dark. It's more about survival and just making out with as much loot as you can and hopefully surviving in the process.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that, but I'm still in the middle of I'm still playing in the middle of two D&D campaigns. So sometime after those are over with, I'll probably run Shadow Dark or something or other.
Yeah. I'm excited. That's the best way I can say it. I'm excited, and I'm hoping things are going to be better than I thought. I'm looking forward to the learn to play sessions. I want the next edition to be better. Like I want it to be better, but I look at stuff on paper, and my kind of like game design brain goes, that's simple, but it's worse.
Yeah. I did figure out though that because I've seen the insides of the new 2024 book, that Maul, the MAUL, is now the best weapon in the game.
There's always one when you bring in weapon stats. When 4th edition was the Kopesh,
Yeah.
because it had brutal 1 on it, and it means you could reroll 1s on a die. Like, it just happens, you know. There's always gonna, when you bring in weapon specific stuff, you always find one that's always going to be better.
Yeah,
And
very specifically because of the weapon masteries and everything. Maul has the one that allows you to knock people prone. It's 2d6. So, rolling the 2d6 generally, it's going to be better than rolling a 1d12. So, in general, the Maul is going to be the way to go unless you're the only melee class in your party and everybody else is ranged. Then you probably want to go with the Greatsword simply because it's 2d6 and it had cleave on it. Because you don't want to knock people prone all the damn time if everybody's shooting at range. But
yeah,
there's always a top tier weapon. I'm fairly sure that's what people are going to lean towards.
the Chris Grim.
Yeah. So one last thing before we go, we were playing Trivial Pursuit Dungeons and Dragons, and every time I play with my buddy Mike and whoever else is with us, I learn new shit. And what I learned is that if you have 5 Aarakocra together, did you know that they can summon an air elemental?
Go on.
This is a thing. I looked up we had to look into this thing. So Aarakocra, if that is the playable race and it's PCs, they do not have this ability. It is not on the character race anywhere.
It's in the monster manual. Holy shit.
I never knew this was a thing. So what you need is 5 people to play Aarakocras and then convince your dungeon master to let this happen. And if your DM agrees that you could do this, you could effectively have an entire party of Aarakocra at first level who could then summon a CR5 monster that works for all of them. Now, the only problem is that it literally takes orders from all 5 of them. So, one person might want it to kill the mage. The other person might want it to do their nails. The third person might want it to go get a donut. Fourth one wants it to do their shopping for them. The fifth one, it's the babysitter for the day. So
Well,
might be issues with who's actually running the show.
let me read the official stat block.
Yeah.
It says summoning air elementals. 5 Aarakocra within 30 feet of each other can magically summon an air elemental. Each of the 5 must use its action and movement on 3 consecutive turns to perform an aerial dance and must maintain concentration while doing so. When all 5 have finished their 3rd turn of the dance, the air elemental appears in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of them. It is friendly towards them and obeys their spoken commands. It remains for 1 hour or until all summoners die or until any of the summoners dismiss it as a bonus action. A summoner cannot perform this dance again until it finishes a short rest. When the elemental returns to the elemental plane of air, any Aarakocra within 5 feet of it can return with it.
Oh yeah.
So can't be a babysitter.
It could for like an hour.
I gotta run to Piggly Wiggly and get me some cigarettes. I'll be right back. Let's dance. Yeah. You 4, you gotta come with me. We're gonna go to the Piggly Wiggly. You stay here, Elemental.
So this is how you speed run a level 1 dungeon.
Oh my god.
You just have an air elemental kill everything in there for you.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I did not know that. It was one of the questions. How many Aarakocra does it take to summon an air elemental?
5.
Yeah, apparently 5. 5 is the number.
That's amazing.
Yep. I love Dungeons and Dragons Trivial Pursuit so much because I learn new things every time I play.
That's amazing.
Yep. All right. That's all I think that's everything we wanted to talk about tonight.
Yep. We're approaching 200, guys.
Yeah, we're almost there. Next weekend probably Shadow Dark. That would be my guess.
All right.
All right, we're out. Bye, Craig.